Hi, kids. We are ready to start chapter 11 in Bible Stories with Your Mom. Let's see here. Chapter 11 starts on page 138. Get this set up here. I look kind of hazy. I'm wondering if it's my camera being all dirty. I don't know if that helped or not. Okay. Anyway, we'll see how well I do today. So, chapter 11, a kingdom divided. Now we're talking about the southern kingdom. I do believe chapter 11 is another big chapter, like chapter 10 was. It looks to me like it has a lot of pages, so I don't think we're going to get through it all in one sitting. But we will start and see when we find the breaking point. So, the division of the kingdom. And I did look up a couple words. I do have notes. Yay for me, although I have no idea where I put them. But this ought to be fun. I just had them, but they fell on the floor. If I get in dire straits, I'll get down on the floor and get them. Otherwise, we'll just hope I remember. Okay, the division of the kingdom. When Rehoboam, see, I looked it up, Rehoboam, that's how they say it, Rehoboam, attempted to become king of all Israel. He acted arrogantly. The leaders of the northern tribes and Jeroboam met with him and complained about the harsh demands imposed on them by Solomon. They asked for relief, but instead he demanded more work and threatened them with brutal punishment. In response, they shouted, "Down with the dynasty of David, rule over your own house." I feel like that is familiar, like we maybe talked about that before. So, when Rehoboam ordered the supervisor of the workers to force compliance, the people stoned him to death and tried to kill Rehoboam. Barely escaped in his chariot. The northern tribes made Jeroboam their king. So that's what we talked about last time. Oh, and somebody's pulling in the driveway, so maybe I can do this without being interrupted. We shall see. On returning to Jerusalem, Rehoboam mobilized 180,000 troops from Judah and Benjamin to crush the revolt. However, Shemaiah the prophet intervened, informing Rehoboam that the division of the kingdom was God's will. So now we're going to talk about the history of Judah, kings and prophets of the southern kingdom. Rehoboam not only committed political folly, he was a religious apostate. He promoted the practice of pagan nations the Lord had driven from the land. The people built shrines on all the high hills, and practiced cultic prostitution. I kind of don't even want to know what that is. In Rehoboam's 5th year, King Shishak, yeah, I didn't look that one up, of Egypt, invaded Judah and stole the temple treasures, including the golden shields made during Solomon's reign. To give the temple the appearance of its former glory, Rehoboam placed them with bronze shields. Though he had initially refrained from going to war with the north, Rehoboam and Jeroboam became bitter enemies and fought continually. Perhaps it was because their names sounded so much alike. Early kings. Okay, now I am going to have to get out my note. Let me get it off the floor. Here I am. Okay. Okay, the word I didn't know how to pronounce, the Abijam, it is Abijam. Abijam continued the sinful practices of his father Rehoboam, but because of his promises to David, the Lord continued to allow David's descendants to rule over Judah. The conflict with Israel continued, and during a strategic battle, the Lord helped Abijam, whose army destroyed Jeroboam's, though it was outnumbered 2-1. Abijam had 14 wives, 22 sons, and 16 daughters. Though Abijam was not fully devoted to the Lord, his son Asa was a godly ruler. I probably should have looked that one up because I probably did that one wrong too. But he prohibited religious prostitution, destroyed pagan idols, and even disposed his grandmother, who was a cultic priestess. I think that's a nice way for saying that he killed his grandma. He he deposed her. When a massive Ethiopian army invaded Judah, Asa cried out to the Lord for help. The army of Judah defeated the Ethiopians and captured vast amounts of plunder. The Spirit of God inspired Azariah the prophet to remind Asa of God's covenant promises. Listen, the Lord will bless you if you honor him, but if you abandon him, he will abandon you. Asa returned to the sacred treasures to the temple and led Judah in a memorable covenant renewal ceremony. They sacrificed thousands of animals, and the people enthusiastically swore to seek the Lord with their whole heart. Judah enjoyed peace until the 35th year of Asa's rule when they were attacked by Israel. Asa paid Ben-Hadad of Aram for help and for failing to trust the Lord. He was rebuked by Hanani the prophet, but instead of repenting, Asa threw him in prison. For his sin, Asa was inflicted with a disease in his feet from which he never recovered. He ruled for 41 years and was buried with honor in the city of David, which is now Jerusalem. When Jehoshaphat began his rule, he made Judah's security a priority. He fortified strategic cities and built garrisons on the border. Jehoshaphat did not worship Baal, Baal. I forget how I'm supposed to say that. Baal, as in the northern kingdom of Israel. The Lord blessed Jehoshaphat because he obeyed his commands. He was highly respected by the people, and they brought him so many gifts, he became wealthy. He was also highly regarded by other nations. Even the Philistines brought him gifts. In the 3rd year of his rule, he sent officials, Levites, and priests throughout Judah to teach the people the book of the law, which was the law of Moses. He made an alliance with King Ahab of Israel, a Baal worshiper. Ahab persuaded him to go to war against Aram. Jehoshaphat insisted on counsel from a true prophet rather than the phony prophets who advised Ahab. Micah contradicted Ahab's prophets and warned of defeat. After Ahab was killed in battle, Jehoshaphat returned to Jerusalem and was rebuked by Jehu, the prophet, for his error in joining with the wicked king. Jehoshaphat continued to promote worship of the Lord. He demanded his officials govern with integrity and justice. He instructed some of the Levites and priests to judge both religious and civil cases and ordered them to make decisions that would honor God. When the Moabites, Ammonites, and Meunites, that says identity uncertain, so is the pronunciation, joined forces to attack Judah, Jehoshaphat declared a national fast. He prayed publicly in front of the temple, confessing Judah's sins and asking for the Lord's help. While he was praying, the Spirit of the Lord inspired one of the men present to encourage Judah. He assured them the Lord would defeat their enemies. They wouldn't even need to fight. The next day, the army marched out of Jerusalem, singing and praising the Lord. As they were singing, the 3 coalition armies destroyed one another. Jehoshaphat's army picked up the plunder and returned to Jerusalem, singing and praising God for victory. From that time until the end of Jehoshaphat's rule, Judah was at peace. Jehoshaphat made another alliance with the king of Israel. He and Ahaziah built a fleet of ships, but the Lord destroyed them before they sailed. When Jehoshaphat died, he was buried in Jerusalem, the city of David. Jehoshaphat's son, Jehoram, was a ruthless king. Jehoshaphat had designated his oldest son to rule Judah, but this didn't matter to Jehoram. When Jehoram became king, he murdered his 2 brothers and some of the leading officials. Instead of worshiping the Lord, Jehoram married one of Ahab's daughters and plunged Judah into a detestable worship of Baal. It was only because of the covenant the Lord had made with David that he did not destroy Judah. During Jehoram's rule, Edom rebelled And when he attempted to put down the revolt, the Edomites surrounded his forces. He escaped under the cover of darkness, but his army deserted him. Elijah the prophet warned Jehoram of divine judgment. That would be Elijah the prophet warned Jehoram of divine judgment. A combined force of Philistines and Arabs attacked Jerusalem, plundered by the royal palace, and captured all of Jehoram's wives and sons except Ahaziah. The Lord inflicted Jehoram with a fatal intestinal disease, and he suffered for 2 years before he died. No one mourned Jehoram, and he was the first king in the line of David not buried in the cemetery for kings. Ahaziah became king when he was 22. His mother, Athaliah, a worshiper of Baal, encouraged him to sin against the Lord. Some of Ahab's descendants became his advisors. He made an alliance with King Joram of Israel and went to see him after he was wounded in a battle against Aram. Jehu, who had been appointed by the Lord to destroy Ahab's dynasty, found out that officials from Judah and Ahaziah's family members were in Israel, and he killed all of them. Ahaziah tried to hide in Samaria, but Jehu's soldiers found him, and Jehu killed him. Because he was the grandson of Jehoshaphat, a godly king, Ahaziah was honored with a royal burial. When Alithea received word that her son was dead, she seized the throne in Judah by attempting to murder the royal family. She killed all of David's descendants except one, Jehosheba, daughter of King Jehoram, rescued Ahaziah's son Joash, Joash, and his nurse. Joash was hidden in the temple for 6 years. Alithea's murderous rule ended in the 7th year when Jehoiada, maybe it's time I just stop this chapter, when Jehoiada, the high priest, conspired with 5 military leaders, the Levites, and tribal leaders to overthrow her. He positioned his allies at strategic temple locations to protect Joash, then brought them out from hiding. Jehoiada, you say it fast and nobody knows you messed it up, crowned Joash on the Sabbath, and everyone shouted, "Long live the king." When Alithea heard the shouting, she rushed to the temple to find out what was happening. When she saw the people celebrating the coronation, she cried out, "Treason! Treason!" She was right about treason, but wrong about the identity of the traitor. Jehoiada ordered the soldiers to seize Athaliah and kill anyone who tried to protect her. They took her outside and publicly executed her. Jehoiada then made a covenant with the king and the people. After they dedicated themselves to the Lord, they destroyed the altars and the idols of Baal and killed Mattan, Baal's high priest. Jehoiada assigned the priests and Levites to supervise worship in the temple according to the instructions of David and the law of Moses. The people rejoiced because there was peace in Jerusalem now that Athaliah was dead. I feel like for the preservation of my somewhat partially minutely intact ego, that we shall put a stop to tonight before I can do some more research on these names because they snuck up on me. I thought I did good. Apparently, I did not look ahead quite enough. So, next time we will hopefully get through chapter 11 better than we started it. But that was painful tonight. And like sometimes, like you watch a painful basketball game and it's just every play is hard and you just sit there and you just struggle through it. That was what we did tonight. So thank you for struggling through it because there are lessons to learn in the whole Bible story. There are lessons to learn. And if you can try to understand what I'm saying, in spite of me saying it, we will all be better off. So, good night, my lovelies.